Today I am going to be showing you how to do column multiplication. So this is a little bit trickier than a lot of the other methods that we've done in columns. However, once you get it, it is actually incredibly simple. It just seems quite daunting when you look at it at first. So the calculation we're going to be using for this is 135 times 3. Fairly nice numbers, but it'll work with any of them, just happens to be they're all fairly nice numbers for this one. So first of all, how we lay it out. So we're going to write it out in columns, as you probably guessed. So we have 135 times 3, like so. As it's multiplication, it doesn't technically matter which number you put on the top, because you're timesing them both together, and whether you do 3 times 135 or 135 times 3, you will get the same answer, but it is easier to put the larger one on the top for this. Put a little times symbol there, just so we remember that we are in fact timesing. So, for this one, we have 3 steps because there is 3 numbers in our largest number. So, what we do is we work through it one at a time. So put simply, what we're going to do is we're going to times our smaller number by this one, then times our smaller number by that one, then times our smaller number by that one. Or times it by the units, then times it by the tens, then times it by the hundreds. Nice and simple. So let's begin. So 3 times 5. I'll write it over here so you don't get confused. 3 times 5 equals 15. Okay? 15. So ordinarily you'd write that underneath. So you'd write 15 like that. However, if we have a 1 here, it is going to disrupt our second calculation that we need to do. So what we do is, we don't write it there, but instead we write it at the top. It's still 15 because it's still 1 in the tens column and 5 in the units column. We've just moved it slightly to make it easier for ourselves for the next calculation. Okay. So we've now done 3 times 5, nice and simple. Next one along, we need to do 3 times 3. All 3 squared, but for the sake of this, 3 times 3, which we all know is 9. So you would normally just write 9 underneath. So that would be perfectly fine if we didn't have this number up at the top, which we've had to move from last time. However, because we have this number up at the top, we need to factor this in because it's still part of this column. But, nice and simply, all we do is add it to the answer we've just got. So we worked out that 3 times 3 is 9. So all we need to do is add this 1 to the 9. So this will become 10. But, as we remember from last time, we can't just write the second number next to it because that will disrupt with our next calculation. So I'm going to write the 1 part of the 10 up at the top. Again, it's still 10 because it's still 1 and then a 0. We just split it up to make life a little bit easier for ourselves. Now, step 3 of our multiplication. We've done the 3 times 5, 3 times 3, so you guessed it, next is 3 times 1. Nice simple calculation for everyone. So 3 times 1 we know is just simply 3. So ordinarily you'd be done with this. However, because we had to carry the 1 from the 10 and put it up at the top, we need to factor this in. So we need to add this 1 on. So we have 3 times 1 is 3, but we still have this 1, so we need to add the 1 to the 3, turning this very simply into 4. So that is your answer, just that, 405, because you've times each of these together, so every single part of it is factored in, and you've dealt with your extra numbers that you had to carry, so you've solved it because you've included all the numbers, and that's all there is to it. So, carrying on from what we've just learnt, let's take it up a notch. So you've just learnt how to do column multiplication with just one number, but what if our bottom number has more than 1 digit? So in this case, 35 definitely has more than 1 digit because we have both a 30 and a 5. Well, it's not actually as scary as you might think. In fact, it's actually very simple because you just do exactly what you've already been doing, but you do it twice. So, what we did before was we would times the 5 by the 6, the 5 by the 1, then the 5 by the 2. And that would be your answer. It's exactly the same with this, except with this, you also need to times the 3 by the 6, the 3 by the 1, and the 3 by the 2. But we'll work through it separately, so it's less daunting. So, starting off with our 5. I'm doing each of the two numbers in different colours just to make it easier, but you really don't have to do that. It's purely personal preference. So, let's start off as we did with the last one. So, 5 times 6. So 5 times 6 is 30. So, as we did before, we would write 30. But if we write a number here, it will get in the way of our next calculation. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the 3 to the top. It's still 30 because it's still 3 in the tens and a 0 in the units. So that's our first row done. Next row, 5 times 1. Because we've done 5 times 6, now we're doing 5 times 1. 5 times 1, everybody knows, is 5. Lovely. So we'd write 5 there. But we still have to factor in that 3 that we moved from the last time. So we know that 5 times 1 is 5, but we need to add this 3 on. So what we're actually doing is adding that on to our answer, like so. So this will become 8. Because 5 times 1 is 5, but we need to add on our 3 from last time. So this becomes 8. Next one along. 5 times 6 has been done, 5 times 1 has been done, so now we need to do 5 times 2. So write that out like so. 5 times 2, which everyone knows, is 10. Lovely. So we'd write 10 there. Perfect. So normally what we do is, like all the other ones, we'd say, oh, we can't put the extra digit there because it will mess it up. But as we've actually completed this, because it's only 3 digits, we're perfectly fine to leave this 1 here as it is. So the answer to our first part of it, the pink section, is 1080. So we can just leave that as it is for now. And then what we need to do is we can change to our next colour if you're using different colours. If you're not, don't worry, that's fine. So now we've dealt with the 5, we need to deal with the 3. So I personally find it easier to rub out all of our extra bits that we've done for the first row so we don't get confused. So I'm just going to get rid of this 3 up here. So we start completely afresh. Okay, so much like we did with the 5, we're going to times the 3 with each of the digits. So we need to times 3 times 6. So again, writing it out next to it, 3 times 6 is 18. Lovely. 3 times 6 is 18. So we'd write 18 in the blue row. I've left 2 rows, one for the pink, one for the blue. So we'd write 18. However, much like with the pink one, we can't leave this 1 here because it is going to get in the way. So what we do is we rub it out and instead write it on the top. Once again, it is exactly the same because it's still 10 and 8. We've just split it up. Lovely. So now we've done 3 times 6, we need to do 3 times 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3, so we'd write a 3 there. However, we still have this 1 to factor in, so all we do is, again, simply add it. So this 3 becomes a 4 because we have added 1 to it. Lovely. Next one along, 3 times 2, which is 6. So 3 times 2 is 6. Perfect. And that fits very nicely in there. There's no second digit, so we just write it as it is. And now for our next bit. So this is the basic bit done. So now we have worked out our pink row and we've worked out our blue row. However, with the blue row, we need to bear in mind that this number that we've used, being a 3, is not actually a 3. It's actually a 30. which means that our answer for this row should really be 10 times bigger. So all we do for that is, after we've worked it out, we can take whatever number we got here, which in this case was 648, and all we need to do to change this 3 into a 30 is times it by 10. So 648 times by 10 becomes 6,480. So in actual fact, this row, instead of being 648, becomes 6,480, like so. But we can't have two answers to this calculation because that's way too confusing. So all we need to do is add our two answers together. So I'll just rub out this bit here so we have enough room to do our adding. And now all we need to do is add our pink row and our blue row together. So we add 1,080 from our pink row to 6,480 from our blue row. Just simple column addition to add them up. So 0 add 0 is 0, 8 add 8, 16, 4 add 1 is 5, and 6 add 1 is 7. So you'll see our answer is simply 7,560. So that is all you need to do to work it out. So it seems scary because you have two numbers to work out, which means you have double the amount of calculations. But if you do it one, then the other, it's actually incredibly simple.